what if your job training, was like totally personalized like your social media feed is, but like with way higher stakes though?
Yeah.
Like that's the basic idea behind this project called Synergia, the Algorithmic Loom.
Okay.
It's by this AI designer, Borg 8359.
Okay, so that's interesting that you bring up the social media part, right? Like it's
Right.
Borg 8359 is like a fictional AI persona.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about like our current relationship with technology, right? And how that could like extrapolate into the future of work and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And before we go any further, I do want to point out that Borg 8359 is fictional.
Yeah.
But it does make you think, like, is this the future we headed towards?
Yeah.
Like a world where AI is guiding all of our career moves?
Yeah, like Synergia, it paints this picture of a world where you've got this AI companion
Oh, wow.
that's constantly like analyzing your skills.
Okay.
And then it identifies like emerging trends in the job market.
Interesting.
And it curates like this totally personalized learning pathway just for you.
So it's like having a career coach 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like always pushing you to stay ahead of the curve.
So no more like agonizing over what skills to learn
Right.
or which career path to choose.
Yeah, okay.
It's all just like laid out for you thanks to AI.
Yeah, that's the idea. Like Synergia suggests that this constant upskilling is like woven into daily life. It's just like how we think of, our social media fields. Like the project actually describes these urban landscapes that are like integrated with digital interfaces
Okay.
that give you like real-time feedback on your progress and connect you with opportunities to like further develop your skills.
It's like the whole city becomes this giant learning platform.
Yeah, almost like that.
Wow. I'm picturing like holographic projections over real buildings.
Uh-huh.
Like turning your everyday commute into a pop-up classroom.
Right.
It's pretty different from how we think about work and learning today.
It is, yeah. And like Board 8359 doesn't shy away from exploring the potential downsides of the kind of system either. Like while personalized learning sounds empowering, the project also like hints at this potential prayer
Okay.
to constantly like upgrade yourself.
Okay.
It's almost like you're trapped on this like never-ending treadmill of self-improvement.
So where's the line between like self-improvement and feeling like you're constantly being pushed to keep up?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And like who even decides what skills are valuable in this future job market?
Yeah.
Is it us or is it the algorithm?
But that's like a key question that Synergia raises. The project description, it actually mentions this history of worker resistance.
Oh, wow.
In this world, like there's strikes and demands for more control over the upskilling process.
So even in this like futuristic utopia, people are still grappling with the potential loss of autonomy that comes with letting an AI control their careers.
Exactly. Like, it seems like that's like a constant tension.
Yeah, it's almost really a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Reminding us that even as we like embrace new technologies, we need to be mindful of what it could mean for our individual freedom and agency.
Absolutely. And this is where the idea of community comes in.
Okay.
Synergia, it envisions these tight-knit communities,
Okay.
kind of like the historical guilds we were talking about,
Yeah.
that offer support and foster connection in this hyper-competitive environment.
So we're talking about personalized learning pathways powered by AI,
Right.
digital interfaces built into the city,
Yeah.
and a resurgence of these community-based support systems.
It's a lot
It's a lot to unpack.
to think about.
But it's clear that Borg 8359 has created a really thought-provoking vision of the future of work.
And it's fascinating how Synergia draws these parallels between these futuristic communities and the guilds of the past. Like, think about the role that guilds played.
Yep.
They provided training, they upheld standards of quality,
Right.
and they offered a sense of belonging to their members.
It's almost like Borg 8359 is saying that even in this world driven by AI and automation,
Yeah.
those basic human needs for connection and purpose will still be there.
Right. And maybe in a world where work is like constantly changing,
Yeah.
those communities become even more important
Right.
because they offer a source of stability and support
Right.
as people are trying to figure out this constantly changing job market.
Yeah, it's an interesting juxtaposition, this idea of cutting-edge technology existing alongside these like old-fashioned forms of community and collaboration.
Right. And it makes you think about like what aspects of human connection and community
Yeah.
might actually be more important in a world that's like super driven by all this technological advancement.
It's interesting how Synergia is both optimistic and unsettling at the same time.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this vision of a world where everyone has access to personalized learning and support. But then on the other hand, there's this underlying anxiety about losing control,
Yeah.
about becoming just like another cog in this big AI machine.
Yeah, that tension is like at the heart of this project.
Yeah.
It makes us face our own anxieties about the future of work
Uh-huh.
and ask ourselves some tough questions.
Right.
Like, what are we willing to give up for efficiency and progress?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that technology is serving us and not the other way around?
It's a lot to think about, but for now, let's maybe take a step back and explore like the historical inspiration behind Synergia a bit more.
Okay.
Those guilds, those community structures from the past, what can they teach us about navigating the future of work?
That's a great question, and one that I think will help us understand Borg 8359's vision better. Let's dive into that. We were just talking about those guilds, right? And how they might actually have on lessons for us as we try to figure out this future of work that's like so tech-driven. It's really interesting how Borg 8359 brought this like old-fashioned concept into their vision of the future.
It is, I keep thinking back to that idea of constantly upskilling, like always having to learn and adapt. It can feel a bit overwhelming, you know? But then you add in this idea of community and shared purpose,
Right.
and it starts to feel a little bit more manageable, a little less lonely.
That's a good point. It shows how even in a future where tech is running everything, we'll still need those human connections and support.
Yeah.
In fact, they might become even more important because everything's changing so fast.
Imagine a world where your job is constantly evolving. Like the skills you learned yesterday are already outdated today.
Yeah,
It's enough to make anyone feel insecure and lost.
definitely.
But if you have a community, a network of people going through the same thing, it can give you a sense of stability and support.
It's like having a safety net, a group that gets what you're dealing with.
Right.
They can offer guidance and mentorship, celebrate your wins,
Uh-huh.
and help you through the tough times.
And maybe even push back against the system if it gets too much, like we saw with those worker strikes in Synergia.
Exactly. Those strikes show how important it is for workers to band together,
Yeah.
to stand up for what they need, even in a world run by algorithms.
It's almost like Board 8359 is suggesting that these communities, these modern guilds, could be really important in making sure that technology serves people,
Interesting take.
not the other way around.
It implies that these communities could kind of balance out the power of tech, make
Mhm.
sure we don't lose the human side of things while chasing progress and efficiency.
So we have these personalized learning pathways powered by AI digital interfaces woven into our cities and these community structures that offer support and connection. It's a pretty complex vision of the future of work,
It is.
one that brings up a lot of questions.
Definitely. And I think that's what good speculative design does.
Mhm.
It provokes us, challenges our assumptions, makes us really think about the kind of future we want.
One thing that strikes me about Synergy is how it's both utopian and dystopian at the same time. Like on one hand, you have this vision of everyone having access to personalized learning and support.
Yeah.
But on the other, there's this worry about control and being forced into things,
Mhm.
a future where algorithms make all the decisions.
It's a fascinating duality, right?
Yeah,
I think it shows how we feel about technology. Like, we hope it can fix our problems, but we're also scared of what new problems it might create.
and it makes me wonder if we are heading towards a future where AI is calling the shots at work.
Right.
How do we make sure it benefits everyone?
That's the big question, right? And I think Borg 8359 gives us some hints in how they portray these communities.
Okay.
Maybe the answer lies in strengthening those connections,
Mm.
building solidarity, and working together.
So it's not just about learning new tech skills, but also about changing how we interact with each other
Exactly.
to make sure we don't lose our humanity in this automated world.
That's a great point. It suggests that the future of work isn't just about fancy new tech, but also about social change.
Right.
It's about finding ways to use tech without losing the things that make us human.
And maybe those old structures from the past, like the guilds, might hold the key to a better future of work, one that's more fair and fulfilling.
It's an idea worth exploring, right?
Yeah.
As we look ahead, it's often helpful to look back for inspiration.
So we've talked about personalized learning, digital interfaces, community structures, and even a little bit of history. But Synergy also brings up a much bigger question.
What's that?
The question of what it means to be human in a world increasingly shaped by technology.
Right, where algorithms are calling more and more of the shots.
Yeah. A world where automation is changing what work even means.
Yes. Synergia makes us face that question.
Even if it doesn't give us easy answers.
Yeah,
It's a question that goes beyond just skills and jobs.
for sure.
It's about our values, our purpose, our place in the world.
And it's something we need to be thinking about now as we enter this new technological era.
Yeah.
The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.
It's a little scary, but also exciting because it means we have the power to create our own future.
That's a good point.
a future that reflects what we believe in and what we want.
It is a hopeful thought. And it reminds us that while Synergia offers a vision of the future, it's ultimately our choices that will decide what that future looks like.
So we've been talking about Synergy, right? And this interesting mix of AI-driven learning and the return of community structures like those old guilds. But it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
in a world where algorithms are basically shaping our careers, how do we make sure everyone has equal access?
That's a really important question. One thing Synergia highlights is how these systems that seem personalized could actually make existing inequalities worse.
Oh, wow.
Imagine if access to the best AI coaches or the most effective learning platforms depended on things like your socioeconomic background or who.
It'd be like a digital divide, but instead of internet access, it's access to the tools that shape your future career.
Right.
And if those tools aren't available to everyone, it could create this cycle where the people who are already ahead get even further ahead.
Exactly. And it's not just about access either. We have to think about the biases that can be built into algorithms.
Okay.
These systems learn from data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases, then the algorithms will just continue those biases.
So if the data used to train these AI career coaches is skewed towards certain types of people or industries, it could end up pushing people from underrepresented groups into those same limited paths,
Right.
even if they have the potential to be great in other areas.
Exactly. It's like the algorithm is reinforcing societal prejudices instead of challenging them.
Wow.
That's why it's so important to be critical when we look at these visions of the future that seem perfect. Synergia reminds us that even tech that's meant to be good can have unintended consequences.
Right.
It's our job to think about those consequences and design systems that are fair and inclusive for everyone.
It sounds like a huge task.
It is.
But we can't just sit back and accept whatever the future throws at us. We have to be active in shaping that future,
Absolutely.
making sure technology empowers everyone, not just a few.
And that's where I think the idea of community, as shown in Synergy, becomes so important.
Okay.
These communities could play a big part in challenging biases, advocating for equal access, and making sure the benefits of technology are shared widely.
It's almost like these communities can act as a check on the system,
Yeah.
holding both the technology and the people in charge accountable to the people they're supposed to serve.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the heart of what Synergy is trying to do. It's not just about predicting the future, it's about making us think critically about the role of technology in our lives
Right.
and the kind of future we want to create.
It's been a really interesting look at Synergia, the Algorithmic Loom.
It has.
It's a project that's both hopeful and cautious, optimistic about technology's potential, but also warning us about the possible problems.
It reminds us that the future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it together.
Uh-huh.
And the decisions we make now will determine the world we live in tomorrow.
So to all our listeners out there, keep thinking, keep imagining, and keep pushing for a future that's fair and gives everyone the power to succeed. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Exploring Futures.
And if you liked this deep dive, please share it with others who might be interested in these thought-provoking ideas. We'll see you next